A government pandemic advisor thinks the dropping of the mask mandate should wait until March or April. In Australia, rallies in support of Indigenous people as the country marks National Day. And the US and Germany to send advanced battle tanks to Ukraine. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. Hong Kong reported 2,401 new COVID infections today, slightly more than yesterday. 64 of the new cases were imported. 28 more patients have succumbed to the virus. Meanwhile, government pandemic advisor Yuen Kwok-yung said the city will have to wait until March or April to have the conditions to drop the mask mandate. Christy Khan reports.
Hong Kong's daily COVID caseload has seen a declining trend since early January. The infection cases on Tuesday even dipped below 2,000. The daily death tolls, however, have been fluctuating between 20 and 50. Following the scrapping of the mandatory isolation order on January 30th, the mask mandate is the city's last social distancing measure that remains in place. Speaking on a radio program today, government pandemic advisor Yuen Kwok-yung said Hong Kong people will have to wear face masks at least until March or April. He explained the coronavirus will live shorter under a warmer environment, adding that the human body will less likely develop inflammation in springtime. But he advised the elderly and people who are immunocompromised to continue wearing masks to protect themselves. That's because flu and other upper respiratory diseases will be back after the mask mandate is dropped, he said. Yuen warned that the city's healthcare system will face pressure as hospitals may be swamped by patients during the post-mask era. He added that COVID will stay with us in the community, so it is pivotal to continue the vaccination drive in the city. He suggested residents may have to receive COVID vaccines annually before winter to enhance their antibody levels. Elderly and high-risk groups are recommended to wear face masks every winter. Furthermore, Yuen hopes the government can set up a committee to review its anti-COVID work over the past 3 years. He believes this will enable the city to better prepare for the next pandemic. Christy Khan, TVB News.
Over in Japan, traffic congestion that left vehicles stuck for more than a day on a western Japan expressway after heavy snowfall eased this morning. Heavy snow fell from Tuesday through Wednesday across much of Japan in the most severe cold snap of the season so far. Meanwhile, morning lows today in South Korea ranged between -16 and -4 degrees. Authorities said temperatures will drop Friday morning and it will be even colder on Saturday. Thousands of Australians marked the country's National Day today with rallies in support of Indigenous people, many of whom described the anniversary as Invasion Day. Tracy Furness has more.
Australians marked the 235th anniversary of British colonisation with a public holiday today. Some businesses gave their employees a choice of whether they wanted to take the day off, as arguments rage over how history should be remembered. In 1788, 11 British ships carrying a human cargo of convicts arrived at Port Jackson, present-day Sydney. The colonialists never signed a treaty with the Indigenous people in Australia, unlike other colonies such as the United States and New Zealand. Many in Sydney spent the day on the harbour and beaches while thousands gathered in the city in support of the Indigenous Australians at an Invasion Day rally.
I think it's really important that we come out and protest today and show support in any way we can for Indigenous Australians. It's actually the 85th day of mourning this year, so our Indigenous Australians have been protesting this for 85 years.
Australians expect to vote this year in a referendum that would enshrine in the nation's constitution a mechanism for the Indigenous people to advise Parliament on policies that affect their lives. It is known as The Voice.
The Voice is a very clear proposition will be put to the Australian people later this year. The first part of that is in recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander islanders as Australia's first peoples. That's where recognition comes in. And it is something missing from our nation's birth certificate. It's missing from our constitution. And I say this, if not now, when? If not now, when will this change occur? And if not the people of Australia this year, who will make this change?
3.2% of Australia's population are Indigenous. They are the most disadvantaged ethnic group in the country. Similar rallies occurred across the country today. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Ukraine declared an air raid alert over the whole country early today as fighting intensified in Bakhmut in the east. The attacks come after the United States and Germany announced plans to arm Ukraine with dozens of modern battle tanks, which Russia denounced as an extremely dangerous step. Daniel Rell tells us more.
Overnight, the Ukrainian military said its anti-aircraft defences had shot down all 24 drones sent by Russia, 15 of them around the capital, Kyiv. There were no reports of damage, but officials told the public to take shelter. Kyiv also stated that Russian forces were attacking in the direction of Bakhmut in the east, with the aim of capturing the entire Donetsk region. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky praised the US and German commitments on Wednesday to send tanks to Ukraine and urged allies to provide large quantities of the military vehicles quickly. US President Joe Biden announced his decision to supply 31 M1 Abrams tanks hours after Berlin said it would provide Leopard 2 tanks, the workhorse of NATO armies across Europe. Germany will send an initial company of 14 tanks from its stocks and approve shipments by allied European states. The United States has been wary of deploying the difficult-to-maintain Abrams, but had to change tack to persuade Germany to send its more easily operated Leopards to Ukraine.
Secretary Austin has recommended this step because it will enhance the Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives. The Abrams tanks are the most capable tanks in the world. They're also extremely complex to operate and maintain. So we're also giving Ukraine the parts and equipment necessary to effectively sustain these tanks on the battlefield.
Biden said the tanks pose no offensive threat to Russia and that they were needed to help the Ukrainians improve their ability to maneuver in open terrain. Senior US officials said it would take months for the Abrams to be delivered and described the decision to supply them as providing for Ukraine's long-term defense. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said Germany's tanks would probably be ready in 3 or 4 months. Sergei Nechayev, Russia's ambassador to Germany, criticized the US and German move, saying this extremely dangerous decision takes the conflict to a new level of confrontation. Pledges to Ukraine from other countries that field Leopards have multiplied, with announcements from Poland, Finland and Norway. Spain and the Netherlands said they were considering it. Britain has offered 14 of its comparable Challenger 2 tanks, and France is considering sending its Leclerc. Daniel Rell, TVB News.
The United Nations Cultural Agency has decided to add the historic center of Ukraine's Black Sea port city of Odessa to its list of endangered World Heritage sites. The decision was made at a session of the World Heritage Committee in Paris. During the meeting, Russia's Deputy Permanent Delegate to UNESCO, Tatiana Dovgalenko, briefly sang a song about Odessa. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had previously called on UNESCO to grant Odessa World Heritage status. The UN body agreed on Wednesday. The city has been subjected to Russian artillery attacks and airstrikes since the beginning of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine last year. Under the 1972 UNESCO Convention, ratified by both Ukraine and Russia, signatories undertake to assist in the protection of the listed sites. They are also obliged to refrain from taking any deliberate measures which might damage World Heritage sites. A farm worker accused of killing 7 people in back-to-back shootings at 2 Northern California mushroom farms was charged with premeditated murder Wednesday. It was California's 3rd mass shooting in 8 days and the largest in San Mateo County history. It followed the killing of 11 people in the Los Angeles area amid Lunar New Year celebrations Saturday. This report from NBC News.
Facing 7 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder, Chung Lee Zhao made his first court appearance today. 2 police sources with direct knowledge of the investigation tell NBC Bay Area the 66-year-old admitted he felt disrespected by co-workers for years. Telling authorities his concerns were dismissed, the enraged senior citizen retrieved a gun and hunted down co-workers at the farm. Officers recovered a semi-automatic Glock, rounds of ammo, and a goodbye note to his wife.
This investigation is 2 days old. There's an awful lot more to learn. The penalty, if convicted of all the charges, would be life without parole or death.
The massacre in Half Moon Bay, California, comes as the Secret Service released a new report today detailing trends in mass attacks, highlighting red flags before the next shooting. Personal grievances were among the most common motive, with a quarter of attackers motivated by conspiracy theories or hateful ideology.
These individuals engage in concerning behavior. And this concerning behavior is evident to those around them.
That behavior perhaps evident in the 72-year-old who killed 11 in Southern California. Law enforcement sources say evidence points towards a personal motive. Former friends call the man angry and hopeless.
Only in America do we see this kind of carnage. What the hell is going on?
Tonight, 2 California communities are mourning, the latest in a growing list of American cities suffering similar heartbreak. As the vice president visits Monterey Park to console families there, here in Northern California, the long legal process for the suspect is just beginning.
Welcome back to TVB News. In New Delhi, students were detained by police Wednesday as they gathered to watch a BBC documentary about Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Indian government has dismissed the documentary as propaganda and has blocked its streaming and sharing on social media. Tensions escalated after student groups said they would show the banned documentary that examines Modi's role in the 2022 anti-Muslim riots. Modi was chief minister of the state of Gujarat back then when a suspected Muslim mob set fire to a train carrying Hindu pilgrims. The incident set off one of independent India's worst outbreaks of religious bloodshed. Modi has denied accusations that he did not do enough to stop the riots. Just days after India blocked the BBC program and banned people from watching it, authorities were scrambling to hold screenings at colleges and universities. 2 people have been killed in a knife attack on a train traveling between Kiel and Hamburg in northern Germany. The perpetrator, a stateless Palestinian, also injured 7 other passengers on the train before being tackled by others and arrested by police. 3 of those injured are in a serious condition. The Palestinian was also injured and taken to hospital. German federal police said the 33-year-old attacked the passengers shortly before the train arrived at Brockstedt station. No details were available about the identity of the victims. A state official said federal and state police were working on the investigation. A machete-wielding man killed a sexton and injured a priest at 2 Catholic churches in Spain in what authorities are calling a possible act of terrorism. The man attacked clergymen at 2 different churches around 300 meters apart in the southern port city of Algeciras. Local media, including the El País newspaper, identified the killer as a 25-year-old Moroccan. An unknown number of other people were injured in the attack, although El Mundo, another newspaper, said it was 4. The suspect was arrested and is in the custody of Spanish National Police. The government is planning to build 30,000 light public housing units within 5 years. Sources say the authorities have identified urban sites including Kai Tak, Kwun Tong and Chai Wan for these projects. A housing society member hopes more light public homes can be built in the urban area. It is understood the urban sites authorities currently have in mind include Kai Tak, an area near several public housing estates in Kwun Tong, and Sheng'an Street in Chai Wan. Deputy Financial Secretary Michael Wong wrote in a newspaper that the Housing Bureau will announce the urban sites selected in due course. Wong added the authorities have already been in touch with the Transport Department and bus operators to address transport and traffic issues. Earlier, the government announced the first batch of land plots for light public housing development. All 4 sites are in the new territories. Some of them are considered to be too remote. A housing society member hopes that half of the light public housing units will be located in urban areas. Wilson Orr said most people currently living in undesirable conditions, including subdivided flats, are mainly concentrated in urban districts such as Kowloon East or Kowloon West. He added if the government plans to build light public housing in remote areas, that will make the proposal less attractive. Orr also noted that the public transport network and community facilities in the urban area are more well established than the new territories. The government plans to spend about $26 billion to build light public homes, which translates to about $890,000 per flat. Michael Wong noted that for light public housing buildings that are about 4 stories high, the construction cost for each unit would be about $550,000, similar to that of transitional homes, but will offer 20% more floor area. Authorities are reviewing whether there's room to lower the construction costs.
And that's the news. Thanks for watching.